That is my 2021 KTM 1290 Super Adventure S, and I quite like it, and I've ridden it for 3,000 miles. I've owned it for 9 months, 10 months, and I'm going to give you my 3,000 mile owner's verdict of it. Let's go. Right, this video is not going to be a boring spec sheet readout by a man in a beard looking all motorbikey. It's going to be me talking about my bike, and hopefully you know the specs of this if you're watching this. It's a 2021 KTM 1290 Super Adventure S. The 2022 model is exactly the same. I don't know what they're going to do for 2023 yet, probably not an awful lot. But anyway, this bike, new, costs about £16,500, which is otherwise known as a lot of money. I bought this in February this year, 2022. It's an ex-demo bike from a dealer down in Kent, Laguna in Ashford. Had 400 miles on it. 400 miles, hadn't even had its first service. It cost me 12.5 grand, so 4 grand less than a new one. And that is point number one of this video. KTMs depreciate horribly. Don't buy one for list price. Go and buy one in January or December, because you'll get loads of money off it and you'll feel like a bit of a twat when they cut the prices in winter if you buy one at list price. But anyway, I've done some bits to this. When I bought it, it didn't have any options on it, and there are some essential options, namely the tech pack. This is an electronic thing. It's a bit of software that unlocks stuff that's already on the bike, such as the up and down quickshifter and the rally mode, both of which are crucial to your enjoyment of this motorcycle if you're going to use it as intended. Like a bit of an arsehole, to be honest. I also added a top box and the plate to go on it. This is a Touratech one, it's KTM branded, and that together with the plate was about 500 quid, but it is solid as a rock and it fits all my camera gubbins in, and it's just very useful for touring and just, you know, leaving stuff on the bike all locked up. Heated grips, they were about 200 quid fitted from memory. Heated ergo seat, this is the high one. That is again about 180 quid, and I had to pay 20 quid to get activated on the bike. Too many computers on bikes, I don't like it, they're getting more complicated. Is actually true. I've got a screen protector on the dash, I've got this little Puig spoiler thing on there to stop buffeting, and yeah, that was it. The tech pack. It's like £1,000 to unlock stuff that's already on the bike. And that's a lot of money, especially when the dealer, probably shouldn't be saying this, gave it to me for cost price because I was buying an ex-demo bike. Cost price is £450. So what's that? What's the margin? Like double? Like that? I mean, whatever, there's a lot of profit for the dealer. But yeah, I absolutely love this bike. I'm going to grab the camera and do a bit of a wobbly walk around and show you what I do like and what I don't like about it. And I'm also going to tell you the bits I've added onto it that I've forgotten, which are in this little note on my iPhone. Oh no, I remembered it all. Very good. Well, I'm going to cut to the chase of all the things I don't like about my bike and all the things that have gone wrong with it, and they're all at this end of the bike, hence me leaning over in a slightly too casual for YouTube sort of fashion. But anyway, the rear shock. Obviously this bike has got active suspension. It's electronic suspension, that rally mode and everything, that tech pack rather, unlocks anti-dive, which is fantastic. It is super comfortable, and I really, really rate the suspension on this bike. It gives you super confidence in the corners when you put it in sport mode, and you can really slacken it off in comfort mode and all, just leave it in auto mode. However, the only real thing that goes wrong with this bike is if you turn it on and start it, sometimes it will give you a preload adjuster warning, and you might be thinking, oh crap, I shouldn't have bought a KTM, it's gone wrong, like that MCN Super Duke Evo long-term review that just went up a few weeks ago. That had the same problem because it's got similar suspension to this. All that means is the bike's got a bit confused and it will jack the rear shock up all the way, which if you're short is suboptimal. All you need to do is turn the bike off, leave it for 20 seconds if that, and turn it on again. Now just don't rush this bike. When you turn it off, leave it for 30 seconds, then turn it back on, wait for it to come to life, wait for the dash to boot up, and then start it up, and the error will probably go away. I had it once this morning, I've had it about 3 times in 3,000 miles this bike, and it is really just a non-issue. The other thing which is a bit of an issue is the old top box. It does give this bike a weave at high speeds, and I'm talking about 100 miles an hour plus. It is a bit unnerving. I can ride through it and have had it up to about 130 miles an hour in Germany, and it's actually all right. It is quite a flighty bike at high speeds. The chassis geometry for an adventure bike, it feels quite sharp. The whole point of this bike is the most fun handling adventure bike you can buy. I would say it's even more fun than a Multistrada V4S. I've ridden pretty much every adventure bike apart from the Harley Davidson, but I think it's probably not got too much competition from that. And it is uber fun. However, it does mean on a bumpy road at high speeds, it can feel a little bit like, a bit vague, but power through it and you'll just have a hoot and you'll be doing little wheelies off crests and everything else. And that is the whole reason I bought this bike. That's the end of the negatives, by the way. The rest is going to be good stuff. The reason I bought this bike was to crush continents and to have fun. Now, I've only done 3,000 miles in a year, so clearly crushing continents hasn't really happened. I did one 4-day tour around Europe. Absolutely bloody loved it for that, but I've just not done as much riding this year for reasons of having young children and not having any money and general life getting in the way. So I want to keep this for another year or two to try and get more use out of it. But I bought it because it is the silliest adventure bike you can buy. The other reason I bought this bike is for its breadth of capability. It can do loads of different things. I've been green laning on this and it's on reasonably roady tyres, the Continental Trail Attack 3s, so they're really road biased, but it'll tackle dry green lanes, and I've had a lot of fun on a big heavy bike, and I'm a complete off-road noob, so I've enjoyed the electronics and the way they look after me when it's in off-road mode. It's really good for stuff like that. The balance, the low speed balance around town, it's almost as well balanced as a GS, thanks to these big, I think they call them bull bag, technical term, fuel tanks down here. The weight of the bike is carried quite low. It's got quite a low center of gravity, a bit like me. Other things it can do, can ride like a lunatic, and that's one of the reasons I bought this, because obviously it's comfortable, it's upright, we'll get onto that in a bit, but it's also absolutely nutty courtesy of the 1301cc LC8 V-twin engine. It's got loads of torque, 160 horsepower, third gear power wheelies if you slacken the electronics off really easily. It is an absolute blast to ride. For the real world, for roads, this engine is an absolute peach. You just overtake everything at a whiff of throttle. You see a crest, you just go, ah, and the front wheel comes up a little bit and you feel like a hero. It's still looking after you. It's just really quite aggressive when you want it to be, but it can relax, sit on its chaise longue and smoke a pipe and be like, yeah, if you will get there, then we get there. Or you can stick it in rally mode, turn the TC down and go. What's German for bananas? Bananen, or Austrian really, it should be. So yeah, I like the fact it can do everything and it's not very compromised. I think it's a brilliantly comfortable bike. The riding position for me at 6'3" is fantastic, and I usually feel quite cramped on a lot of bikes. I've got this seat in the high position, and it is the high alternative seat as well, so it's like 20 mil higher than a regular one. And yeah, it is a tall bike like this. It gets even taller when you jack the preload up electronically, which you can do. I just feel right at home on this, and for crunching out big miles on tour, oh, it's bliss. Heated seat, heated grips, that torque, music in my ears, and very little buffeting once I've stuck this little Puig screen spoiler on. It is fantastic for long distances. What other boring things can I tell you about it that you probably knew? The other thing I've really liked about this bike in 3,000 miles is the user experience and feel-good factor. I can almost get my words out. It has got so many digital things on it, like this electronic suspension. Everything's easily adjustable though, using very logical menus. So you use the switch gear down here and it will show you things that are wrong with the bike in red and things that are good in green. So it's dead easy to see if your tyres need pumping up, if the battery needs charging, or if you need to let the engine warm up a bit before you go Billy bananas on it. The trips is really easy to see. Your 2 trips, it's easy to see. Your fuel economy, I've averaged 46 mpg, UK mpg, over the past 1,500 miles. So it's pretty good on fuel economy for a 1.3 litre bike. And then the electronic suspension and everything else is really easy to adjust. The anti-dive, the preload on the fly, the radar cruise control. Not talked about the radar cruise control. You can't use it in rally mode, which is where my bike lives most of the time, but when you're on motorway, I flick it into sport mode or normal mode, and you've got radar cruise, and it sounds like a gimmick, but it's bloody not. It's brilliant. It just keeps the set distance from the car in front or a motorbike in front, and you can just sit there and relax, and it really, really does just take a bit of stress out of long distance riding. It means you can fiddle with things, which you probably shouldn't be fiddling with while riding along. Yeah, all your heated grips and everything are done through the menus. I'm not going to do the spec sheet, I said that. I just really love the user experience, and it's dead easy to use, and it's dead easy to adjust the traction control on the fly as well. Have I said dead easy enough? I should also point out that these switches are all illuminated, and I'm losing light so you can see the switch gear lighting up at night. Only fiddly thing, the indicator. I whinged about that when I first bought this bike, when I first rode this last year. Because the indicator switch has got a weird shape, it sometimes feels a bit unnatural to cancel it, but you get used to it, you just have to push it in and down a bit. That was one of my whinges when I reviewed this bike in 2021, and I've got used to it. This is a really crap video, but yeah, I love this bike. Not much wrong with it.
There is one negative I forgot to mention when I was filming this earlier today, and that is the standard tyres on the 1290 Super Adventure. They are Mitas something something. They feel wooden, they feel a bit crap, and they feel a bit cost-cutty. As soon as I changed them out for Continental Trail Attack 3s, or frankly I think anything else would be better, the bike really came alive, gave me much more confidence in the corners. So yeah, that is one negative that I didn't mention, which I now have. Oh yes, and the quickshifter can be a bit clunky, and sometimes if you don't give it enough welly on the upshift, it will cut the ignition, you'll go over the handlebars, but it won't actually change gear. But that's kind of user error on my part, really. Onwards.
Right, I'm going to wrap this up soon because I'm losing light, obviously. I'm just going to quickly talk about servicing costs and reliability. Wake me up, but you know, if you're going to buy one of these, you probably want to know. Other than the preload adjuster thing and the weave, I've had no reliability problems with this. I've only been to my local dealer, P&H in Crawley, for the first service, which was about 250 quid. So reasonably dear, but again, that's a dealer quite near London, so you know, it's going to be expensive. And I've taken it back to them as well to get the headstock bearings tightened up to try and cure that weave. And that did help a bit, but taking the top box off really helps. Headlights, really, really good. It's got lean sensitive cornering lights. I've not done enough night riding to really notice them. But yeah, if you look in the manual, it'll say, oh, we're needing up to 25 degrees. All of them light up down here. I don't really care. I bought this bike, as I said, for touring and fun, and I've spent most of my time on it on my local crappy roads around here, and I've had an absolute hoot. Only thing I'd really replace it for is a newer version of this bike, or potentially a Super Duke R, and turn that into a tourer with a screen and some luggage. But at the moment, it's hard to find another bike that has the same do-it-all capability of this thing. GS for me, a little bit dull. Mod Strada V4, bit too expensive, and also not really so good at doing green laning. But yeah, it's the closest rival to this really, the Multi V4. Not had gone a Pikes Peak one, but whatever. I think this is a bit of a bargain. It's 10 grand cheaper than a decent spec Multi V4 S. So yeah, I love it to bits. It feels like a bargain for the tech on it. It hasn't gone wrong like everyone said it would. It's just been a wicked hoot of a bike. So yeah, my 3,000 mile review of my KTM 1290 Super Adventure is great. I just wish I had more time to ride it. And that's my problem. But anyway, if you have liked this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel, so I've got more interesting videos of this with actual riding content in it coming up very soon. And go down to the comments, leave me the Austrian word for radar cruise control, because that's exciting. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. It's really pretty, isn't it? Look, the clouds are consuming us. They're coming up from the ground. The zombie souls of the dead cows.